Hi guys, we're back doing some interviews with some of my favorite readers. I'm really excited today to talk to my friend Bill Schomburg. How you doing, Bill?
Great, Heather. It's good to be with you this morning.
Well, I think I know how I know you, but let me hear how you think you know me. You tell everyone how we know each other.
Your husband pastored the church that my wife and my late wife and I joined in about 2002. So we've known each other about 18 years, maybe a little bit longer. And the impact that your husband had in my life, my faith walk, is second only to the impact that you've had from the aspect of what you've shared about your journey, what I know personally of you, and that kindred relationship because of what it takes to be a pastor's wife, the health, some of the health things that you and I've shared, individual parts of our journey. So I feel like you've offered an inside look at life, and it's impacted me in so many ways, and especially your writing. So I don't want to go on and on like that, but I could.
Oh no, just go on and on, Bill. No, that's awesome. And I have a couple stories, and I don't want to talk too long because I want you to be able to share some of what you've learned from one of the blogs we talked about a minute ago, but a few things just to point out. So in my new book, in the Soul-Selfie #NoFilter, there's only one picture. My first book had a few pictures. So this one, there's only one picture, and it's of one Bill Schomburg's nightstand, and he has a stack of books next to his nightstand and has mine on the top. And I won't even let my ego get big because mine was above like Patrick Lencioni's and Bill Goff or Bob Goff, but whatever. But it's right where I want it to be in that. In my new book, I also kind of try to control how people read my book, shockingly. And I want people to have it by their nightstand, to underline it or just read a chapter or a blog post and try to actually maybe do some of it, what it says, or implement it in their lives, and not just read it on the beach and then pass it to someone else. So I love that picture. So that's why that's in my book. And I also have a couple other, I have a Wonder Woman do-rag that you and Allison gave me when I had leukemia, that I believe I wore to a cocktail party. That's a long story. And then I also have a God box that I call a God box. It's decoupage with Wonder Woman stuff that you guys gave me. So when I start feeling overwhelmed and stressed, luckily it's not, stretched to the max yet, but it's getting there. I just write things down and put them in that box. So that's my box to remind me I'm not really Wonder Woman. It's just God helps me do it. So why don't you tell us about one of your favorite posts, and I'll shut up now.
Well, first of all, the picture that I sent you was not contrived. That book sits there for that reason, because it's so easy to read. I can grab it right off the top. The books below it all have significance as well, but they're books that you might read annually to remind yourself of things. And the difference in your writing for me, and I think probably others like me, is you write from your heart. You write, and yes, you and I have a personal connection, but I think that message comes through for everybody. And it did for me in the post that I want to reference, and it was from 8/15/20. Is everyone depressed? And
yes, the answer was yes.
The people who say that I'm not depressed, they're just in denial.
Yeah.
But several pieces resonated out of that, and I'll try not to go long, but everybody knows you don't hand Schomburg a microphone. So
right, yeah, I knew what I was getting into.
The first part was the book that you referenced in the blog referred to your grandparents. And my mother, when I read that blog, had just shared with me a really powerful story from her childhood. that I had never heard before. And it referenced the idea that my grandfather, my mother's dad, at one point, my mother didn't know that she had a sibling, and that sibling had passed because the family didn't have enough money to afford going to the hospital. And my grandfather made the promise to his wife, my grandmother, that that would never happen again. They would always have enough money to be sure that a child was born in the hospital and had every opportunity to live life, to have a life. And the impact of a story like that at this time in my life, 5 years ago, December, my wife passed away from brain cancer. Nobody gets out alive. Luckily, she's in heaven. Not luckily, what a stupid word. Thankfully, she's in heaven.
Mhm.
And everybody says she's not coming back even for me. So, but that thread of what does a legacy look like?
Mhm.
And the way that relates to my emotional state and my mental state today is I didn't appreciate the cumulative impact of some of the events in our lives.
Mhm.
My father took his own life in 1996 in November. I had a life-changing personal accident 11 years ago in November.
Gotta get out of, we're almost out of this month, Bill. We gotta get out.
Yeah, we can just, but that right there's the key. These events, the anniversaries of these events, if we are not dealing with them in a healthy way, then they're going to continue to impact us and limit the manner in which we can impact others in a positive way. You and I share a faith aspect, and whether or not somebody believes what I believe or what you believe, we can still influence them in a very powerful, positive manner.
Mhm.
Influence is one of two things. It's either positive or negative. Very few people that you'll think of who influenced you in your life do you think of and go, yeah, kind of. It was either a positive or a negative influence, and we want to gravitate to that positive. The impact related to, is everyone depressed? Yeah, from time to time, but the cycle can be a downward progression if we don't have positive influences to counteract it.
Mhm.
And that counteraction comes in the form of how we act. What are we grateful for? You referenced that in the post. And I feel like I'm going on and on here, but the perspective that I was left with is, yep, everybody can be depressed. What are we going to do? How are we going to act? What are we going to do? Physical, practical actions that are going to help limit the time where the depression can either overwhelm us or we're going to overwhelm it and get back to life.
Mhm.
And the last piece, and you reference this, and I'd love your perspective on when you wrote that, is the idea of serving. Get out of your own skin, get out of your own head, and find somebody to serve. And I love the story you told about how you found that place. Would you share some of that?
I will. If you remind me which experience you were talking about, because I don't remember which one it was in that specific block.
You chose people that you were going to write encouraging cards to. I think it was cards, maybe letters, but you actively chose people that you were going to encourage. And then I think you physically dropped those notes off to them.
Yeah, it was during the COVID time where we're all kind of isolated. And one of the main ones I did was birthdays, which I'm terrible at birthdays. I have one friend who knows everyone's birthday. And when she says it's time to celebrate so-and-so's birthday, that's how I know it's their birthday. So I'm usually very bad at that, but because I hate the phrase, but because of COVID, I was sitting around a lot and I was looking on Facebook for, I just saw someone's birthday and it was someone I knew, but not someone who was my best friend or anything. It was just someone I'd known a long time and I cared about, probably wouldn't normally spend a birthday with them, but why not? So I just wrote birthday cards to people and then I would just drive them to their house because I had time to do that. And for some reason, the impact of me driving it to their house, not really getting the card as much or even knowing their birthday, but just taking time to drive there was impactful for people. So there's things you can do even in the depression or even in COVID times or any time. It's harder for me to remember to do it in regular life, but that's really the time that's important too, because we are going so fast, we start neglecting reaching out to people who are hurting. Because I am reminded that life goes very slow when you're hurting. It goes very quick. Oh, it's been 2 weeks. I'm sorry I didn't call you. Well, for that person who needed that call 2 weeks ago, life may have been just, they're barely hanging on. So it's important to remember, when you're not the one suffering at that moment, that don't hesitate to reach out to people. Well, thank you so much for sharing today. I want to talk, we'll have to do this again because we have all kinds of things we can talk about. But I love that you gave the perspective of being grateful because it is November, it is Thanksgiving. And I know some people have already moved on to Christmas lights. Shame on all of you.
Yeah.
But
You know who you are.
no shame in my book, just right here about early Christmas stuff. But I was reading a blog post I wrote, I think it was November 2015. If you look in my first book, you can read that. It's called Thanksgiving. And I just realized that so much of my life is I'm thankful, but I'm most thankful when I get what I want, or when my kids get what they want, or when I get my way, or when I get the stuff. And that's backwards. So being mindful to be grateful and giving and thankful for all of it, not just when things go our way, when we get what we want.
100%.
Well, thanks for showing up this morning for my first interview of the day. It was so nice to start my day off with you, and we'll probably hear from you again.
Thanks, Heather. I appreciate every moment with you and your writing.
I'll talk to you later, Bill.
Take care.
To stop our recording now.